Just hoping you can hear us up the back. We might get someone to shut the door later, and just in case you have trouble hearing. And we brought the planning team up the front to use a microphone, which should make things a little easier. So welcome to our 21 May DAC, or Development Assessment Committee meeting. As you're aware, these meetings are recorded for the benefit of both newspapers and anybody that's online, and plus for the record, so that if somebody needs to go back and have a look at it. So just be aware if you're speaking that you're actually online, and at some point you're going to end up on YouTube. So that's how it happens. So it's probably just for your own benefit rather than mine. I'm used to being belted on YouTube, so but anyhow, so there you go. So at this point, everyone's present. No apologies. Could I have someone confirm the minutes from the last meeting? Thanks, Councillor Sullivan. Thank you, Councillor Berry. Those in favour? So carried. Right, any matters arising from those minutes? No? Let's get into some business. So, starting off with item 9.1, and we have two speakers to this. Nina Ruzzi as our first one, please. And how are you, Nina? If you come up the front, and there's a little button in front of that microphone, and a green light will come on, and they'll be racing. So, racing when the light's on. So, yes. No, you'll be right. I won't do that to you, Nina. You've got 3 minutes.
I'll put it down to 3 minutes.
Well played. Seasoned professional.
As best I can.
Thank you, Nina. Well, magnificent. Magnificent. The floor's yours, and then Council's will ask questions either of your officers afterwards. So, and that'll go for everybody tonight. So thank you. It's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councillors and other officials and representatives here tonight and watching online. My name is Nina Ruzzi, and I've lived at 16 Stead Street in Balan for the past 17 years with my two boys. I'd like to speak about the unauthorised timber deck built at 14 Stead Street as part of the Childcare Centre development. In 2022, when the developer submitted their plans for 14 Stead Street, I'd reviewed the permit, sought advice and trusted that what was approved would be what was built. But the reality is very different. The developer constructed a 13-metre long, 25 square metre timber deck directly along the shared boundary, which runs the length of my backyard, without any planning approval. That deck was never shown on the original endorsed plans and was later issued with a non-compliance order by the Moorabool Shire's Planning Department. For anyone who's not familiar with the site, I just wanted to demonstrate. So mine ground level is where I'm standing. There's a retaining wall, which is about approximately 700. So the ground level next door starts about here, on top of which an approximately 700 deck has been built. So this is where the feet of the staff and kids are on the deck. The fence then extends up to 3 metres. So if you're standing on the deck, you can see from a 3 metre height down into my yard, my dining area, my kitchen, my bathroom, and the entirety of my backyard. So this has erased our privacy, causing anxiety and changed how we live in our home every day. The centre is approved for 102 children. This is not a backyard with a family next door. This is a business in a residential zone with an ever-changing roster of staff and children. I'd like to stress that it's not the fault of the staff and children for using something that was put there. The developer could have utilised the corner block and built a deck on Stead Street or Steiglitz Street and not overlooked neighbours' homes. The plans submitted by the developer also specified a timber acoustic fence. Instead, the developer built a metal fence that reflects and amplifies sound, and at 3 metres high, it also reflects noises from the freeway, which we could never hear before. In their submission to amend these plans, they have raised the issue of a boundary survey, suggesting that this metal fence does not actually sit on the boundary. This is confusing to me because they actually removed the existing fence and they built the metal fence that's sitting there. So they put it there. So that's confusing to me. I'm confused as to why they never discussed this with me in 2022 or 2023, but have raised it now. The metal fence is so close to my carport that the gutters on my carport sit on top of the fence, meaning I can't access the gutters because they're in the neighbouring yard. So tonight I ask that you reject the retrospective amended plans, enforce the removal of the non-compliant deck and require the replacement of the metal fence with the acoustic timber fence that was originally approved. Thank you for your time, and I have documentation here if you'd like to see anything.
Thank you, Nina. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to see the document that you're talking about.
This is the...
Push your button down,
Sorry.
Councillor Bingham. mate.
I'll just repeat myself.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
just said that I'd like to, just for the purpose of, I'd like to see the documentation that the Speaker is referring to.
So this is the landscaping plan that was submitted.
Can I see that?
You can see that I've highlighted the boundary and where the deck sits at the rear of the property. And if you're interested in the fence, this is the proposal for the endorsed timber acoustic fence.
Councillors, if you want to just pass it around. And
Yep.
you can ask a question while we're playing pass the parcel.
Thank you. I don't want to distract councillors that are looking at the picture. I just had a quick question. Ms Ruzzi, how noisy has it been with that deck? I'm assuming attached to the fence.
Well, it's a timber surface. It was part of the condition of the planning permit was that all surface finishes and play equipment be detailed in a two-stage landscaping plan, which was never done. So the surface of the deck is timber, and given that it's raised 1.5 already, and there's no restrictions on outdoor play for 102 children, so yeah, it's distressing and devastating.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Hi, Nina. Thanks for coming in. Just a couple of questions. So I just want to make sure I've summarised it right. The required fence was 1.9. It's been built to 2.1. But effectively, with the height of the deck, the fence has been reduced effectively from that side to 1.5. So there's clear visibility over. So I did read the notes. The first thing I thought before I got to this was, would a fence extension be a simple solution? And I read here that it's not a viable amenity solution. So if the fence was to be extended another 400 mil, it would meet, I suppose, its initial requirements. But putting aside the acoustic something, because I've got a question for that too, putting that aside for the moment, you wouldn't be comfortable with a simple fence extension to provide the initial? Okay.
No, the short answer is no, I wouldn't be happy with that. It's already a foreboding 3 metre high metal fence, and it's not solving the problem of the elevated deck, which shouldn't be there and could have been built on any other boundary that didn't overlook. Yeah, and the noise that results from that is. Yeah.
Councillor Ward.
I suppose my second question is, I'm really conscious of acoustics. We do have, obviously, with all the growth in the estates, houses that abut freeways, and it's a common concern raised by residents. So very sympathetic to that. And I suppose this is a question for you, but I may also defer to Mark in a moment. Would acoustic baffling on the inside of that fence address the noise issue, or would it have to be, maybe you're not an expert on acoustics, I'm not, or would it have to be a simple replacement, in your view?
I don't think that's, again, it's not addressing the issue of the deck.
Can I defer that
Yeah,
question to
yeah,
Mark?
you can.
Thank you. Mark, from a compliance point of view, just to putting aside the height, wrong materials made, would acoustic baffling serve a similar purpose, or would it have to be replaced for wood?
So through the chair, you could alter the fence, including acoustic baffling, to minimise noise impacts. So that you could make modifications to the existing fence, but you have to probably add the attachments to that existing fence and make sure it is supported.
Councillor Bingham, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is of council officers. The position that this decking is currently in, does it meet, I assume it doesn't, but the FRL 60-60-60? Fire rating level?
Yes. Who'd like that?
So through the chair, there's no building information, which is fire ratings related to the plan application. Plan is purely dealing with the planning side, so we don't have any of that building information.
I'm just going to ask you if anyone wants to foreshadow anything, just to be on top of it. No? Councillor Sullivan, do you have a good... Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Councillor Keogh, sorry. Yes. Just push your button there. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to the objector. Dee, are you happy with the drawing of the fence that's been passed around now?
Well, this is what was submitted and what I expected.
Yeah, and that's what you're happy with?
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Minari, you have one? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Also on the fence, Ms Rusey, thank you for inviting us to your backyard to visually see the fence, which helped a lot in terms of the process here. Where the concrete panels are that hold up the soil and the base of the other side of the, obviously that's a lot to get your head around at first, that your ground level is so much lower than that one. Have you got concerns about how that looks as well? Was that on that design, the concrete panels I'm talking about? Because obviously you were expecting wood on the top. Were you expecting wood to cover the concrete panels as well?
I didn't know that. It's a retaining wall, so
yeah.
I didn't have an expectation of it that would be, covered in timber.
Okay.
I just knew the retaining wall would be there and that a timber fence would be built on top of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Keogh, just want to push a button there, please. Yeah, the green light. Yeah, sorry. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Bingham.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So, as part of the original permit, it was a timber fence, correct? Yeah, now there's a metal fence. So I'm just looking at the recommendation, and you talk about foreshadowing. I know we've got another speaker.
I'd rather you talk about foreshadowing than me.
But the recommendation doesn't talk about the fence. So maybe that's... Yeah, well,
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
have you seen the recommendation?
Do you mean the proposal to extend the height of the fence and the boundary survey? Is that what you mean?
No.
Have another go, Councillor Bingham, and just...
I don't know if I ever received that.
So there's a recommendation in this document, but it doesn't address the fencing issue. So I think I will, I will amend this slightly to include rectifying this fence issue. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Are you foreshadowing something, councillor? Possibly. Maybe.
We'll let the applicant speak first.
Thank you. But you can if you like. We're easy to get along with you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to the officers, the retaining wall and the amount of fill that's in the backyard, was that part of the original permit?
Mr Lovell.
So through the chair, if you have a look on the papers on page 10, on the left-hand side on figure 3 there, that was the original landscape plan. And as you can see from that figure, there is no change in level, so it's showing a flat surface on the childcare centre side. So it didn't show any discrepancy between levels between one property to another property.
Well, as a comment now...
Comment or question, councillor?
Oh, well, a question to the planner. How can you reinstate a satisfactory backyard to the neighbour when there is a retaining wall that's probably a metre high, which wasn't originally part of the permit?
So through the chair, there is a discrepancy between topography of the childcare centre and the neighbouring property. Now, the childcare centre can have a flat site with the building, and it was acknowledged that there is that difference. As far as like what can be done, the issue is the plans can only show fencing height above surface level to the childcare centre.
Yeah, comfortable with that, councillor Kerr?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, councillor Taylor.
Just a question to the officers. With the fence itself, obviously you've got the retaining wall that's basically sitting flush, and you've got the fence itself which overlaps onto the property. Within time, won't that be a weight issue on the retaining wall and the fence in total?
Through the chair, so any time you build a structure above a retaining wall, it requires, just to confirm through a building surveyor that, it can, for example, it doesn't compromise the integrity of the retaining wall underneath it, and also the fencing is well supported so it doesn't fall over.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No? Thank you, Nina.
Thank you for your time.
Now, if I could call on Des Ricks, please. Mr Ricks.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I am the developer of the property, and we developed it. The landscaping was never part of developers, even though it is part of the planning permit. BADAC, the Aboriginal co-op who leased the property, were doing the landscaping. So they've done the landscaping with nothing to do with the developer. So they did not, even though the planning permit's in my name, they did not get consent for amendment to the planning permit. So that's where this has come from. The height of the fence is up to Nina. I believe we can extend the fence or build another wall on the inside of it to overcome the soundproofing or the overlooking. The Bondor fence is a soundproof fence, which all the paperwork has been lodged with all that. It is a soundproof fence and complies with all the rules. And that was also the landscaping was government funded by BADAC. So.
Have you finished, Mr Ricks?
Yep, I'm finished.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Just some questions. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Note that you said government funded. I was kind of taken aback a bit when you said the government funded provided $700,000 for this landscape design.
$700,000,
but my question is just about the fence, and I respect that from a different company, so you may not be able to answer, but just in terms of the fence and obviously the materials being different than what was on the original permit, can you explain why that was?
Well, we found it was a better product, a safer product in a childcare. My supervisor did speak to Nina about what was being used before it was put up, and the other neighbour, which they were happy with, and they both had the choice of the colour. That's why the colour is white. They had that decision.
Thank you, Councillor Bingham. Councillor Ward, please.
Thanks, Mr Ricks. I'm just looking at the topography of the block. What is the fall from the top to the bottom, the back of the block?
I don't know without looking. I haven't got that with me. I don't know, but
Yeah,
it would be minimal.
It is quite a slope looking at it, and I did pull up to the site and have a look at it, but I drew attention to myself looking over the fence into a childcare, so I snuck off. But I have a block that has a significant slope, so my fence is 2.1 metres at the front of the block, and down the back of the block it's knee high. So I understand that there's going to be a retaining wall. I suppose I was interested, though. That might be a question for Mark. Mark, have you got an approximate of what the wall would be from the front of the block to the back?
So I can't advise the exact, exact dimensions there because that hasn't been provided through a licensed land surveyor.
But just for clarity, for absolute clarity, the requirement for the height of the fence was specific to the back, wasn't it?
So through the chair, the height of the fence was dictated as a standard on flat surface through the entire property.
Between the two, yeah.
I'll just go to Councillor Minari first and Councillor Taylor. Okay, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ricks. I have a photo here. I just want you to explain. So on the childcare side of the fence, the north side, so there's a photo here that looks like it's wood.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's wood on on that steel fence. Did you put the wood on the childcare? So there's been wood panels added on the childcare side.
It's not attached to the fence.
It's not attached to the fence.
To the fence, no, because there was nothing allowed to be attached to the fence. So the fence had nothing's been attached to that fence. That is a freestanding fence inside that, which I can show you a photo of.
That would be great. Thank you. Oh, so this is the halfway through the construction of the deck, and yeah, okay. Right, it's quite high, isn't it? Interesting. That's all for now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Taylor.
I'm just going back on what you just said then, just before. The objector agreed to the colour of the fence and the fence itself, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, have you got that in writing?
No, I have not got it in writing. My supervisor organised that.
Okay.
He spoke to both neighbours about it.
Because at the moment, like obviously we've got a situation where they're not quite agreeing with that. The second point is with the fence, I have no real issue with the way the construction was done on the fence, but the retaining wall seems to be the questioning part in that fence part. So why was it done in that way?
Sorry, what was that? Sorry?
The retaining wall.
Done in which way?
So there was meant to be the 1 metre with the retaining wall that was put in. Why was it done in that way if it was meant to be?
The retaining wall?
Yeah.
Because that's the engineer design. We're designed by an engineer, that's how it was to be built.
Okay, and why is the fence overlapped? Why does the fence overlap the retaining wall? So you've got your retaining wall and the fence overlaps.
That's the way it was designed. I'm just get it designed by the engineer.
Copy of that?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
I think that'd be on the original plan that was done. It'd probably be in the paperwork, isn't it? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Troy, sorry, Des. I'm getting a bit confused. So now is there two fences there and one of the fences holds the decking?
No, nothing holds the decking. The fence is a standalone fence on top of the retaining wall. The decking is standalone decking with a wall built in front of that for their timber that was put on by the landscapers.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mr. Ricks. I noticed the recommendation from officers is that it be removed or relocated. Until that photo came around, I actually hadn't seen the foundations of it. I suppose my question is, if it was a simple task to move the back of the deck, so take that out and move it a metre forward, because there seems to be some space at the front, would that be easier than ripping the whole thing out? And I suppose my next question will then be back to officers on that point.
Well, the issue still would be, even if we moved it forward a metre, for example, it would still be an overlooking issue. So it's an overlooking issue, which is the main issue. That's why the fence needs to be built higher.
I suppose looking at the photo, I thought if it was moved a metre forward, there'd be the opportunity then to put screening or something at the back of the new rear of the deck to provide that privacy. And then we can address the acoustics and the baffling.
Well, that would be possible.
Yep.
But like that.
Yeah, did you have a question for officers as
I do.
So you might as well do that all
Yeah,
at once.
Mr Bazoodenhout or Mark, obviously the recommendation was removal or relocation. Taking the back a metre away, adding it to the front and then putting up screening to address the privacy, would that be considered relocation, or is you'd need designs to properly assess it?
So through the chair, that's actually a third alternative that could occur. So that would be cutting a portion of the deck area, placing a internal screen. So that would actually provide some additional protection and also creating a bit of a separation with the neighbouring property so kids aren't or adults cannot be right up against that boundary fence.
Okay. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question's of the officers. So obviously that photo was just circulated around about that second technically fence. Is that technically another structure? Like I'm talking in reference to meeting the fire rating level, the 60, 60, 60, as I mentioned before.
Through the chair, it is a building requirement, but any multiple fences or attached fences or two-sided fences, they again have to comply with building requirements.
There has been a fire engineer report done on the decking, and it all ticks the box.
Councillor?
I'm just struggling to understand how a decking within 1 metre of a boundary can possibly meet fire rating levels. I'm struggling to understand that.
I don't set the rules, but it does comply, and it's up to the building surveyor to interpret how they want it designed. Not a planning issue, it's a building surveyor's issue.
Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got a question of officers. So the picture that's just circulated around, it's got a framework on the fence. Is that part of the decking? Is that one project, that framework and the decking? And is that part of what we're suggesting in the recommendation?
So the proposal before us is landscaping that as a deck area, but it doesn't show details of that fencing. So we don't actually have detailed plans of fencing endorsed under the planning permit.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? I have a question of officers. In terms of... Oh, sorry, Councillor Kerr. Whack the light on, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pardon me. A question to the developer. From your neighbour's point of view, the backyard fence, how would you describe it? To me, it looks more like a prison yard than a backyard.
Councillor,
that great big steel fence.
We can't...
It's a high fence, yes, it definitely is a high fence. Yep.
It's most inappropriate for
Councillor, please. Wait for the debate if you must. Right. Turn your button off, please, Councillor Kerr. Yes. Any other questions? Then I'll ask a question of officers. Yes, Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I'll have a question of the officers. The applicant references that the building surveyor has signed this off. Have we got any of that sort of documentation?
Through you, Mr Chair. So once a private building surveyor certifies any building works, they need to submit copies of those plans to council for record purposes. So within a certain period of time, so I can follow up with our MBS, Municipal Building Surveyor, if we've got copies of those plans submitted to council.
Thank you, because again, I'm very interested that somebody would sign something off.
Yes, can we restrict this to a question? Our role, I just want to clarify this, our role is to ask questions of either the Speaker or the officers. It's not, we're not here to give an opinion during that process, and we're certainly not here to go off the map. So let's keep it on what we've got in front of us, and we'll all get along famously. Any other questions, councillors? My question then is, we've established that there's a secondary fence, and I'd assume that there is a boundary limitation on building off the fence, the original line. What is that? If there was to be a secondary fence, because if it's a metre in, it's no longer a fence. It's part of a structure. What's our boundary limit for that particular item if there was to be a fence put there, a second fence?
Through the chair, you'd probably have to do like a sightline diagram to work out the distance that it should be set back, that internal fence. So setback from boundary, you'd have to actually provide some documentation to show if you're going to set it back, where is the sight lines to adjacent properties.
Well, I suppose my question is more about the planning in that area. There would be a boundary limit situated in terms of building on the boundary or up or away from the boundary. No?
Through Mr. Chair, I think what we need to see the detail of those plans to be able to determine, to look at that structure, how far it's set back from the boundary, compare it to the planning scheme requirements, and then also look at the building requirements, the building regulations.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, any other questions of Mr Ricks or officers? No, thank you. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask a question on the back of your questions, the council officers there,
Yes.
in reference to that line that you speak of. Is it correct in saying that there's either a metre, 200 or 0? There's no, because if it's less than 200, it's considered dead space, correct? So it's either going to be on the boundary or 200 from the boundary to comply.
Mr Lovell.
So you're correct. As far as 200 mil within a boundary, that's regarded as a boundary structure. So it's actually a boundary, whether it be a boundary fence or boundary wall. Anything beyond 200 mils is an internal structure. So if it's a freestanding fence, that'd be regarded as a freestanding fence within that setback area.
Councillor Minari.
Did we clarify the distance between the two fences?
Yeah, good question. That's a good question.
Because we're talking about it, but we don't really know what we're dealing with.
Yes, good question. Thank you, Councillor Minari. How far away is the secondary fence from the primary fence? That means the wooden fence from the steel fence.
50 mil, 100 mil, approximately. I've never measured it, but just
But
approximately.
it's not that.
It is off the colour. It is off the Bondor fence, yes.
Yes.
But I don't know how far exactly.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Thank you, Mr Ricks. Okay, councillors, you have a recommendation in front of you. We've had, Councillor Bingham has foreshadowed, we're just noting that, but would anyone like to move the recommendation off the papers? Councillor Minari?
I'd just like to move it with some extra conditions.
You could do that. Yes, you could create a motion and add some amendments.
And I'm not sure of the wording, but I suppose the first condition on this new planning permit is to replace condition 1A and D with new condition 1A, which is no raised decking adjacent to the northern property boundary. I think that's very important to be there. Am I able to add a B to number 1?
Councillor Minari, this is your motion. This is
Yes.
your,
Yes. Okay, I'm just trying to get my wording right. In
Want
relation,
some help from the officers, Councillor Minari?
maybe, but
yes.
I'll give the key points that I want to cover, and that is in regards to the acoustic fence, which should have been wooden, to go back to a wooden fence. And I think it's probably considerate to also cover the retaining wall with wood. Is that doable?
The question would be, is it doable, or would you like to do it as a motion and run?
Yeah, I think
Ask a question first, maybe?
Yeah, I think I'd like number 1B to be to replace the acoustic fence with a wooden fence and also to cover the retaining wall with wood fencing.
Can that be done, Mr Lovell? Just hit the button there, Hodge.
To replace the existing fence with a timber piling fence, and then you would like to cover the retaining wall with a wooden finish. The second part I'll have to take on notice, because obviously I don't know, there's building requirements when you
I understand
have retaining walls. There may be drainage issues, there may be...
and understanding rotting and all that sort of thing to going to the ground level, I understand that. Yeah. But I'd like that added in as a... Well, yeah, I understand the second part may be an issue for you.
Councillor Murray, do you mean replace the existing fence? Is that what you're saying? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You're in the middle of a motion, so I'll go to Councillor Taylor shortly. Yes.
And then number 1C, actually, I was thinking about the secondary fence, but I think that's going to be an issue anyway, so I'm not going to touch on that.
So your motion is to replace the existing fence with a wooden fence and to have a wooden covering over the retaining wall. Is that correct?
Yeah, for aesthetics reasons, because it's quite ugly.
Right. Now, Councillor, that's the motion. Councillor's got a question, I assume?
Can we just get the fence built to the original specifications that were on the planning? So that
With respect, the question, we've got a motion in place.
Yeah.
We'll deal with the motion first and then we'll get to the question. So, Councillor Ward?
I'm considering Councillor Minari's motion, but in doing that, can I ask a question of the officers? Mark Henry, I suppose I'm very interested in what Councillor Minari had to put forward. I suppose just for my own peace of mind, I just want to understand the original timber would be beneficial for the acoustics to help the amenity of the neighbour. Would the retention of the fence that has been inserted with baffling be equally as good? Because I know acoustic baffling can be very effective.
So through the chair, an acoustic fence with a wooden structure is just double paling fence, so it doesn't need any additional acoustic treatments.
Or would baffling be added to the existing fence be equally as good?
If you added baffling on top of an acoustic fence, then it of course naturally would lessen noise impacts.
I just want to clarify before I go to Councillor Sullivan's question that Councillor Taylor, the reason why your question wasn't allowed because it was in the same vein as the motion. But if you have a question once that's done its wherever it ends up, by all means ask the question. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sort of concerned with trying to actually cobble a motion together here and not knowing the full impact of what that might be. So, and we've spent 40 minutes on this already, not that that matters, but I'm just wondering, you know, depending upon Councillor Minari's motion, whether that sort of gets up or not, should this matter be deferred until we actually test some of these proposals? Because I'm not quite sure, and I think Mr Bazoodenhout did reasonably say, well, just not quite sure how some of these things got to stand up against the code. So I just put that forward, that's all.
So we'll foreshadow that Councillor Sullivan has a potential motion should the original motion not get up. So we're moving to...
Well,
sorry, Councillor.
I was just going to say, well, the original motion is just the recommendation, rather, and Councillor Minari is proposing adding something to the original recommendation.
Yes.
All I'm saying is, and it's up to the Councillor Minari whether she'd like to withdraw that or proceed with it. There's been no seconder yet, as I understand
right.
it.
That's what I was going to ask.
And I'm suggesting, you know, if Councillor Minari was of a mind, that we just defer this until we get more, we test all some of these options we're putting forward.
Councillor Sullivan, I'll put that to Councillor Minari. Councillor Minari, would you like to continue with the motion or would you like to withdraw that motion and allow either yourself or Councillor Sullivan to do a motion to defer?
My concern is obviously getting it right. And
Yes.
I don't want to make any ad hoc decisions right here, right now.
Yes.
So I agree with everyone, really. And I think, now, my question would be if we, I'm happy to defer. I'm always very happy to defer. But do we have the time to defer?
Well played, well played. I'm impressed. Is there a time limit on this, Mr Lovell?
Through the chair, as same with the planning application, so a planning permit amendment has 60 statutory days to be decided upon.
Where,
Hold back, Councillor Bingham, and I will get you, I promise.
but where are we at in those 60 days? So
Yes.
you're telling me that we don't have any more time?
I think we're right at the time limit of the 60 days. So another month, of course, would take it over.
Well, that puts a risk to it, I agree, I would think.
Would you like that risk explained to both the objector and the applicant?
Yeah, why not?
Yes, okay. I might leave this one to you, H. I think I've done it a few times.
So through the chair, so in this case it's a planning permit amendment, so if it does exceed 60 days, the applicant has the right to go to VCAT for a failure to determine within the statutory timeline. So then VCAT would become the decision maker.
Put simply, it may come back for a position of council, but it won't be a decision of council. So back to you, Councillor Minari.
Okay.
And then I'll get to you, Councillor Bingham, I promise. We'll finish with this first, though.
I don't want to go down that line again.
Okay.
And I don't think any of us want to. I'm just putting it out there. But so, in saying that, I will put a condition in, number 1B, to go back to what was the original fence, because that did pass all aspects of the planning permit. Is that correct? Yes. So I would like it to convert back to how the fence was proposed in the original planning permit.
All right, so we're going to look for a second, but I will foreshadow Councillor Sullivan has a motion should this not get up. Councillors, can I have... Councillor Bingham, sorry, you had a question or you going to second it?
Yeah, no, I was about to say, Mr Mayor, that I'd be happy to second the motion, just if we remove the requirement to have timber across the retaining wall, because I don't actually know how the applicant can actually do that. So if we just remove that, timber fence, I'm more than happy to second that.
I just want council to be really careful when we're making policy on the run. I think just be careful. Councillor Tully, you had a
So
question?
basically what we're doing is we're reinstating the original plans. So whatever the original plans are, that's what we're talking about. We're not putting extra conditions. We're just going for the original plan. So if the original plans were with a retaining wall, it is what it is.
So we have a mover and we have a seconder. Do we have any dissent? Councillor Ward, so... Sorry, Councillor Minari, if you could lead the debate.
Can I just wanted to comment on what Councillor...
I'd love you to do that in your debate.
In my debate,
if
yes.
you can.
Okay. So
Just
we have
sneak
a
it in there somewhere. So-
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we have a retrospective planning permit that has not gone to plan and it has caused quite some grief to neighbouring properties. I feel that we need, when going back to the original planning permit and removing anything that wasn't there, shouldn't be there, should be removed, which we've noted on the recommendation for this new recommendation. But I do, the fence is the other big topic of the day, and I think if we reinstate the planning application around the fence and only what was on paper, not what I suggested earlier to cover the retaining wall, because I see that has challenges and a whole new outlook to it. So I don't want to go there. I want to make sure it's all above board what we're putting ahead. I think that this may be a learning curve to others to try not to dodge and weave the system. It's unfortunate this has happened, and I hope that we can get a better outcome for neighbouring properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't necessarily disagree with what Councillor Minari said, and I actually commend her in trying to put together an alternate here. I suppose I have a lot of sympathy for the neighbour and the amenity impact of this, absolutely. But I also have sympathy for the developer. The only reason I put up dissent was I think there could be better ways of resolving this than putting together a motion on the run. However well intended. I would love a site meeting between the developer, the neighbour and the officers to actually try and mediate an acceptable solution as simply and as financially responsible as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Bigham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With all due respect, this agenda came out 2 weeks ago, so we had ample opportunity to meet at the applicant's site, the objector's site, and hash out any concerns that we had. We're not making policy on the run here. This is very much the council's recommendation with a small amendment that is purely just for the fencing to go back to what was originally once approved in the permit. So I don't think we're making policy on the run, and that's why I'm happy to second this.
All right. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, just quickly, with the deck and obviously with the fence itself, I don't think the deck could be in a worse position, or it basically has maximum impact on the resident. With sound, with people overlooking the fence, adds no privacy to the backyard. The same thing within the fence itself. Basically, the original plans, if they were adhered to, we wouldn't find ourselves in this situation. So I don't really see we're doing it on the run. It's more about doing what should have been done the first time. And like I say, I support Ms Minari's motion.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would speak against it, not because I disagree with the sentiment. It just concerns me that we might be making some decision without all the understanding of the full consequences. And it just that's my concerns in this matter. And as they say, the law of unintended consequences always comes back and bites us on the proverbial. So and that's hence why I just flagged, if this motion were not to get up, I'd ask for it to be deferred until those matters be considered fully, and what the impact might be and whether they do comply with appropriate building regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No? Councillor Minari. Oh, you do, Councillor Kerr? Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully endorse what Councillor Minari has said, and I'll certainly commend all our councillors to support it.
Did you hear that up the back? He was supporting Councillor Minari's.
Just move forward.
And yes, that was supporting Councillor Minari. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No? Councillor Minari, close the debate off, please.
Thank you. Oh, all right. Well, I think it's noted that we've run out of time.
Well, I think we have.
60, well, in both senses, but 60 days is up. And, we saw this last month where we were in a bit of a pickle in terms of, it gives the applicant the right after 60 days to go to VCAT. And I don't want to see that happening. I want to be able to make an informed decision here. And I think we have what it takes to make an informed decision. It's important for council to have a position. I'm not making something up on the run. I'm just going back to what was originally in the planning permit at the beginning, with a recommendation from officers to delete the deck that was added. So I will leave it at that, and I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. A question, Councillor. Yes, you are.
I think, Councillor Minari, you made just a word. You said request officers to delete the deck. The recommendation was remove or relocate.
Okay.
Is it still?
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All right, councillors, there's nothing more to be said. No more bids. Righto. Those in favour of the motion that's at foot. The motion is passed and carried. Now that we ran the marathon, let's get back to a sprint. Yes. Righto, councillors, we'll move on to 9.2.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I think one of the objectors is just confused with the decision.
Oh, sorry. Well, the explanation is that Councillor Minari put up a motion that the original plan of the wooden fence be put back where it was in the beginning of the plan, and that the deck either be removed or relocated. There was a vote taken, and it was to the affirmative of that, and I think there was, we didn't have to take who's against, because it was overwhelmingly in favour of the motion on foot. So, there you go. Righto. And now you don't have to stay for the rest of the show. Okay. I'm sure the popcorn people out the front will look after you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
My pleasure. So, there you go. Righto, councillors. Let's get back to business. And we'll move on to item 9.2. And we have two speakers to this. We have Mr Peterkin. Troy's here, yes. And Troy, if you'd like to come up to the front. And I see we have the applicant as well. Yeah. Do you want to both come up? I mean, you're both to the affirmative. Not going to have any wrestling problems up the front in this one. And I'll ask Troy to go first, please.
Yep. Mayor, councillors, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Troy Peterkin, the owner of Inglenook Dairy. It's a small processing plant in Dunstown, so I've been operating for 13 years. It supplies local milk to Coles, Woolworths, Safeway, small IGAs, your local IGA down here. And also operate a 320 herd Friesian milking cows as well. So basically we keep the whole operation from our farm through the processing plant and then distribution to Ballarat and local cafes and restaurants. So this application is just to support the growth of our business, retain staff members as well, and improve the quality and the productivity of our farm. So that's, for those you don't know, yeah, that's probably our story, and just looking for, obviously, to support this building permit to support the growth of our farm and factory.
Thanks, Mr Peterkin. Any questions of Mr Peterkin? Yes, Councillor Minari.
Thank you. Troy, could you explain a little bit about the carving process and how that will work in terms of the business and on the land that you're looking to?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Thanks.
So basically, what we're trying to achieve is the farm and the grazing lands purely for stock and produce milk. So we've got obviously heifers and dry cows, which take up space on the land that we need to graze on to be able to supply milk to the factory. So the idea is basically when we've got those heifers or calving cows, we place them obviously in the new block, and when they are in the new block, we obviously feed them the correct supplements and maintain them on that land instead of on the grazing land. Yep.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Troy, thank you. I read this with a lot of detail because I suppose subdivision of agricultural land and farming land is very topical and memorable. And when I read the first page about 2 15-cow calving cycles per annum, it made a lot of sense to me. But I suppose one of the concerns raised was that overstocking would be an issue of block of that size without intensive pasture improvement and grazing management. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, when you've got a heifer or a young cow that's about to calf, you actually don't want them grazing on grass. You actually supplement them with supplements, so when they do calf, they've got calcium in their body. So it's not. You definitely don't want a cow to graze on grass especially a young heifer or a cow, because they're producing a lot of milk. So we've got to maintain that milk comes into production at the right time. So it's not that. Unfortunately, you don't really put a heifer or a cow on grazing land with a lot of grass, because they produce too much milk too quick.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Peterkin, this is sort of an area I know reasonably well. I'm assuming that the bulk of the land located in the farming operation in Dunstown is sort of some sort of family trust or company or whatever. So having this dwelling sort of removed from that sort of enhances the ongoing operation of the site, the facility, or not?
Yeah, I'm not quite understanding your question.
Well,
Sorry, I do apologise.
I suppose what I'm sort of asking the question, I'm making some presumption here that the bulk of the land that is retained in Dunstown might be owned by the Britt family in some sort of a trust or association.
Yep.
And having this separate from that is a good outcome in the sense that it's separate from the other operation.
Yes.
And it really is required as an extension of your farming operation. Would that be a fair comment?
That's correct, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Ward.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm really grappling with this one, so I'm trying to see it from both sides of the fence.
Yep.
And I'm sure the next speaker will be able to elaborate on this one too, but Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Tatchell were pivotal years ago in bringing in the rural living zone, or requesting a rural living zone, because we're getting requests all the time to subdivide prime agricultural land, and we're under direction, naturally, to try and protect it. The concern, I suppose, I have with this one is that this block is in what is Area 1 of our prime agricultural land, and we are trying to direct possible subdivisions to existing rural living zones, as opposed to giving up prime agricultural land, because this sort of land is normally for high quality agricultural uses, I guess, growing your cabbages and your lettuce and potatoes. Being a farmer, you can see what we're trying to do. So I suppose I'm giving you an opportunity just to address those concerns and justify why. Yeah. I know you've answered some questions here, but I suppose I'm just giving you an opportunity to elaborate.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're actually supporting that, your ethos, to tell you the truth, because it is basically still agricultural land. We're still rearing animals, we're still rearing calves, which will go back, obviously, to the dairy and be milked. So it's basically probably perfect, to tell you the truth. It's well in line with what you're trying to achieve.
Right. I'll just ask. Oh, sorry, Councillor Beam. Coming late.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to ask a question. I don't know if you've had a chance to read some of the objections.
No.
No.
Too busy milking cows.
No. So just one of the objections, because obviously you've got another processing facility west of Colac.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Did I read you had a facility west of Colac? Did I read that?
No, it's farm.
A farm?
Yep.
All right, a farm.
Yep.
So the objection, one of the objectors, so I would like to know why the land at the milk processing factory is not being used, as this would be better suited than 88. Can you just respond to that?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So I've actually got a written email from Dairy Food Safe Victoria stating the reason why that wouldn't be acceptable. It's a food processing facility. We can't have cattle trucks and stock around close to a food processing facility. We have got the email for that as well, so from Dairy Food Safe Victoria stating that. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Ward, yes.
That was a great question, Councillor Bingham. Could I get officers' response on that? Because I suppose, we weren't aware of that information. You can't have travel trucks. What did you say? Travel trucks and calves around a food process?
Yes, definitely.
Mr Bazudnell or Mr Lovell, could you comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not fully across the farming operations itself, but what we're looking at from a planning point of view is the scale of the activity, so whether a small-scale activity like this would justify a dwelling. And then there are alternative options. They own land. There's also the township close by. So there is opportunity for accommodation close by. But I can provide comments from a planning point of view, but not really from a farming operation point of view.
Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Minari?
Thank you. Just noting here in August 2021, there was a two-lot subdivision of that property. Did you do that? Or so you've purchased the land after that? Yeah. Right, okay. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Sullivan? Oh, sorry, Councillor
Sorry,
Minari.
I just had one quick other one.
Yes.
So what are you using the land for at the moment?
Just maintaining just beef stock, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Councillor Sullivan.
Would it be fair to say that development of this, a dwelling on this site would be sort of the part of the broader agricultural expansion that you need to do? You can't stay still. You have to keep moving and growing, otherwise businesses just die on the vine. So this, would I be right to say that this would actually enhance the ongoing operation of your wider operation? Sort of to look at this parcel of land in isolation to the broader context would give you one outcome. Looking at it in response to the broader issues that you're undertaking, it would give you a different answer. Would that be a fair call?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. I think we'll get to Philip Patton if we can. Oh, sorry, Councillor Minari. Sorry, Councillor Tully, you had a question. Yes.
Obviously, there's in that area. How many lots of land do you have in that area?
Only two.
Only two. So obviously, with one of the objections here was basically, I'd like to know why the land at the milk processing factory is not being used and would be better suited to the dwelling that you're building. So, what's your explanation as in regards to that?
I think the dairy food.
What you said?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
Yeah, sorry.
I was too busy coughing.
Councillor Minari. Yeah. Councillor Minari.
My question is to officers.
Right.
Sorry, Jared.
So if the subdivision was done, the two-lot subdivision was done in August 2021, wouldn't there have been a section 173 added to that subdivision to not, I don't know, just, you know what I'm talking, you know what I'm getting at.
So through the chair, it was actually a boundary realignment. So they had two existing titles and they just wanted to change the arrangement of that boundary line. So they had an existing dwelling, which is, I think it was lot 1. So they just wanted to change that arrangement around and then split the water source between the two lots.
Right. Councillor Berry, and you'll turn your light off, please, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Troy, I just heard you mention that you've currently got cows on there.
Yeah, beef.
Yeah, so what are they feeding on?
Just the grass, because they're beef, they're not dairy cattle.
Okay.
It's just different requirements for dairy cattle and their feed and when they're calving and all that sort of stuff.
I've got a subsequent question. So, Troy, because there's grass on it and you say with this new setup, would you be taking the grass off?
No, it's more. It's sort of like lot feeding. So we want to supply the cow with the right supplement to get her prepared to calve, and her lactations to be right. So it's originally it's just basically dry matter, mineral supplement to make sure that you don't get calcium deficiency when they calve down, and you don't get cows that basically die of milk fever, and maintained as well.
Sorry, just another question, Mr Mayor. So, did I hear you right before when you said you don't want these cows feeding on the grass? So how
The ones that
do you stop them? Sorry?
There's not going to be enough grass there, and we also supply enough dry matter and feed and minerals to keep them supplemented, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Minari, did you have one too, Councillor Bingham? Is that right? Or are you just waving? No? You all? Okay. Well, we still have another speaker. So, yes. Yes. We'll get there eventually.
Thank you,
Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is around the shared dams And in the past, we've seen challenges with shared dams. And so I've got a sort of a two-part question. Obviously, most of the time in this situation, you have to have a pretty good relationship with your neighbour to share a dam, because you wouldn't want to drain it from your other neighbour. And so I suppose the question is, how is that situation, and have you had any challenges so far?
No challenges. And I think realistically, when it comes to rearing cattle too, we'll catch as much rainwater and store as much fresh water for the cows and calves that have been born. So yeah.
Supplement to that, what does your neighbour run in terms of stock?
No, yeah, I think he grows grapes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I won't be going down too quickly. Thank you.
No, he's got no.
Right. Now, do you have a question, Councillor Bingham, or are you waiting for the next speaker? Councillor Sullivan, yes. Right, Councillor Sullivan.
Just a general question. It was sort of suggested there may be alternatives to, rather than build a dwelling here, to look for a parcel of land in Dunstown. How many vacant blocks of land would be available for sale in Dunstown, did you think, at the moment?
I wouldn't know, and probably not one that I could afford either. I've already got one, so...
Zero.
Yeah, basically.
So I think the answer's zero, so...
Yeah.
Right, now can we get to the next speaker? You're sitting there patiently. Mr Phil Patton, please.
Excellent, thank you, Chair. So my name is Philip Patton, I'm from Beveridge Williams. I'm employed by Troy and Rachel Peterkin to represent them to prepare this planning application, and have been liaising with the planning officers during the determination period. I've got a few prepared notes. Some of these will answer some of the questions that you've raised already, but happy to take further questions as well. So, as you've known, Rachel and Troy Peterkin have owned and run Inglenook Dairy through their family for 102 years. In 2011, it was transformed to be a manufacturer rather than a producer, and supplies 50 local businesses across 8 local municipalities. Your Moorabool Economic Development Strategy advises that agriculture, forestry and fishing accounts for 23% of your regional export value, and that agriculture and jobs grow slower and population leak to Melbourne and Ballarat, resulting in expenditure outside the Shire. The proposal is a natural result of a 2-lot subdivision that was approved in 2011. It supports the growth of the established Moorabool agricultural business, which provides jobs in the locality and attracts inward investment and local expenditure. The proposal is appropriate as it supports the growth of the agricultural business whilst using already fragmented land. The proposal aligns with all the relevant principles of the Moorabool Rural Land Use Strategy, notably supporting economic development, protecting the right to farm, making productive sustainable use of the land and providing strong land management. The Council Officer report confirms that this proposal is intensive agricultural activity which is permissible in the Rural Land Use Strategy Area 1. The dwelling provides 2 key benefits. It is a provision of accommodation close to the calf raising activities to ensure round-the-clock support throughout the year as Inglenook Dairy replenishes and grows their cattle towards the goal of doubling the current number of milking cows. It's also the provision of new accommodation so the dairy manager can live in the existing house to avoid commuting. Farm worker housing is under considerable constraint and in short supply due to land, construction and rental costs, and the farm manager is required to support the dairy growth, so this is an integral part of the proposal. This is a dwelling directly related to the growth of an established agricultural business. It is not a lifestyle house. I consider the Planning Officer report that you have in front of you has inappropriately made recommendations for a refusal outcome. It does not appropriately look at the assessment of the planning merits, and it does not adequately provide for the responses that we have made to the officer's request of further information, the objection, or the concessions that have been made by the applicant to the objector. For example, touching on the matter that's been raised a couple of times about the one single objection that's been raised, a written response was provided to Council on the 14th of March. Rachel and Troy Peterkin advised that the dairy land cannot be used for the raising of cattle for 8 different reasons that were provided in my letter, which includes, as Troy's already mentioned, a confirmation of the position from Dairy Food Safety Victoria. This is at odds with the officer report stating that no response was provided. I'd like to conclude by advising that the reasons for refusal are inappropriate and not adequately justified. A statement is made of non-compliance with clause 5307, the farming zone, without justification, whereas in the planning report it justifies a proposal against every element. This is the protection of land for agricultural development by a profitable and long-established agricultural business. This is orderly planning as it seeks council support for the use of agricultural land for agricultural purposes. This is a perfect opportunity for elected members to demonstrate their support for the agricultural community, and I request that you provide a decision to approve this application. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Philip. It's a pity the planning scheme gets in the way every now and then, but anyhow, just on that, we don't have an alternative motion here, so if councillors are going to foreshadow, I'd like to hear it now.
Well,
Should it not have happened?
Mr Mayor, I know Councillor Bingham had something first. Did you want me to deal with?
Yeah, we might deal with that first if I can, Councillor Bingham, and then come back.
Maybe we're about to talk about the same thing.
Oh, well.
Do you want me to try? See if we're in sync?
You two would sync.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. Now, who says you can't come into a council meeting and change the council's mind? So I'm very much in favour, but I don't want to be creating policy on the run. We don't have an alternative. Well, I don't have an alternative. I don't know if anybody else does, but I would actually move to defer this so we give council officers the opportunity to present us with an alternative to approve. Of course, you could go to VCAT and all that, but I hope you don't. But yeah, I would be moving to defer this.
Are you creating a motion now, Councillor Bingham?
Mr Mayor, I move to defer the item to the next
I would
meeting.
second that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Sullivan, second. Well, you can still ask a question at any point in time. Do you want to ask a question, Councillor Malari?
Yes, please.
We are moved and seconded, so...
That's all right. I just got a few more questions since the second speaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I note in regards to the objectors' comments around the fencing. Do you, like, obviously holding, you're holding stock now, you're holding cattle now. Is it holding cattle now?
Yeah, it's just holding cattle now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you plan to upgrade fencing?
Yes, definitely.
And one other one, please. I did note Mr Patton, when he referred to the two-lot subdivision and the year that you noted was 2011, but our paperwork says 2021.
I've made a mistake there.
Oh, you made it. I just want to know who made a mistake. Like, which one made a mistake?
Jolly planning scheme.
So it was 2021.
Yes.
I'd have to go back and check.
Yep. Oh, it's not a big deal. Thank you. That's all.
All right. I just want to clarify that the reason I asked for a foreshadow is we didn't have an alternate motion, and if you feel that something needs some more clarification or whatever, it's all, we have to have a foreshadow in place. Otherwise, it can end up laying on the table, and that's the reason. We probably jumped the gun, but I was just putting the idea in councillors' minds. So we are moved and seconded, but are there any questions before we go to see if there's any objections? Councillor Freeman.
If you wouldn't mind, I notice it's a 4-bedroom home. How many children do you have?
I have 3 that hopefully will move out in their 25, 24 and 25.
So you do have 3, which means you do need 4 bedrooms?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's a fair question. It's a fair question. Any other questions, councillors? So we're moved and seconded to defer this. So do we have any dissent? Those in favour? So carried. So this will be deferred. It'll come back again in a month's time.
I think Councillor, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
I think Councillor Bingham in his motion, or not the motion, but in his wording was suggesting an alternate motion be prepared and come back, not just let this one come back.
I was going to get to that, yes.
Sorry.
Yes. No, you're right. Yes. So Councillor Sullivan keeps me honest, doesn't he? Yeah, so what will happen is that it's been deferred as is, but as Councillor Sullivan said, that Councillor Bingham has within his motion said that he will bring back an alternative, and then councillors will prepare for the next meeting. It may still stand. I'm not saying this is approved. I'm just saying it has an opportunity to come back. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You scare me now. You scare me now, Councillor William. Righto, we're going to move on to 9.3. There's a couple of proclaimers we're going to do before we get to the main body. Just so everybody, sorry about the voice, it's been one of those days, but just so everybody understands what the purpose of tonight is this applicant has already gone to VCAT. So what we're stating tonight is a position, that's all we are, of council. So it's not a decision of council. So what will happen, what it basically, can't you hear me? Yep. What it basically does is when the applicant goes to VCAT, it sends down also a position of council to give the member an opportunity to say this is what the council thought because this originally ran out of time as per the legislation. So does everyone understand that? So tonight when you speak, just be aware of that there will be no decision made here tonight. There will just be a position of council. Everyone's clear? Perfect. Yes, Councillor Sullivan.
If I may, Mr Mayor, so basically what you're suggesting, or what you're putting forward, that the recommendation that's on the business paper tonight is basically council's position when, if and where, you've obviously said it's gone to VCAT, so when that time comes, council, as you rightly say, does need to put forward something as to what is suggested.
As per the rules,
would be.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Righto, and we also have an alternate motion, but we'll go through the speakers as we go. Keeping in mind the alternate motion is not a motion of decision, it's a motion of our position. I just want to be clear, because I don't want anyone to go away thinking something happened that didn't happen or did happen that didn't happen. So there we go. Righto, now we've got that out of the way. If I could please ask Ms Karen Hawkes, please, to come to the front desk. And I'm sorry, Ms Hawkes, you missed out last time. We don't know what went wrong, but this is your opportunity. The light's already on and it's flashing, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I did miss out last time, but I know that other residents put a lot of the concerns in front of the council. I'll just give you a little bit about my position and how this development affects me, and also I've got some comments generally to make about the development itself, and then a couple about the effect on the community. So I bought my house, which was 11 Fiskin, 22 years ago. It was a miner's cottage moved early last century to the block, and it's had a number of uses. It was a home, and it was an inn and lodging, and then even a shop at some stage. And when I bought it, it was in very poor condition, and it stayed in that condition. It was my holiday shack at weekends. And then about 10 years ago, I moved and made, and after the 2016 Heritage Study, which looked at the contributory overlays in relation to contributory value of these houses to the town, and in relation to creating a centre of belonging to Balan, I decided that I would renovate the house and employed restoration builders to do that. It's been extensively renovated, if not rebuilt, and it has some modern amenities now, but it's retained a lot of the original charm. So in relation to, I have a 1/4 acre block. I have so my whole back fence is overlooked by this development, and I get half of Unit 2, Unit 3, 4 and 5 are directly behind my back fence with two balconies overlooking, And then next door, I've also got complete view of units 6, 7 and 8 and part of unit 9. So I don't see the two one-storey at either end of the street, at Eddles and at Atkinson, but I've got a complete vista of the two-storey development, which is all along the set fence, and it's in two different, it's only got a small break in it for two visitors' car parks. So it's quite overbearing. It's, the effect on me is that it basically is a loss of amenity, particularly my privacy, which is not at all assured by the 1.75 screens that are up in front of the two balconies, but it's the overall impact just behind my fence of that property, and also the vista along that I can see. So it's loss of privacy, which is very, very important to me in my back garden because it's my restoration place. I also had a garden plan done which was meant to be planted out in April this year, and that hasn't been able to go ahead and will need to be changed. My sheds will need to be relocated if this goes through, and because I will need to replant along the back fence. And I would prefer that to be at the developer's expense, because it's completely different type of, I'll have to do screening, and I'll also have to screen down the southern side of the fence so that I don't then see the units that are not directly behind my fence. So it's very disruptive in relation to that.
Councillor Bingham, yes, I know we were way over time, and Miss Hawkes missed out last time, so I've been a bit generous with the time.
That's fine, Mr. Mayor. I didn't bother about you going over time. That's fine.
Can I just go on?
Yes.
You're still talking? Okay, I'll withhold my question.
So, yes, I
We'll have to wind it up though, Ms Hawkes.
So I think that this whole, my one very big concern about the development, apart from the fact that I think it's a too heavy footprint on the block, and it's with little or no sort of space for people to really enjoy and open up to the sense of a kind of spaciousness around their home. Apart from that, I think the difficulty is that it's not. One of the main concerns I've got is what is the issue in relation to access for emergency services? Because the 4 units, 1-bedroom units, 2 at each end, go boundary to boundary across the driveway, which means that all vehicles going through from Edel Street to Atkinson Street have to drive underneath that bedroom, those 1-bedroom units. So that's really concerning me. What is an appropriate sort of height and access for the emergency services vehicles? It's also clear to me that they are not, because all the bedrooms at the 1-storey level, it's clear to me that the elderly and the mobility impaired who are more likely to rely on public transport and living near the station are precluded from this accommodation. It is not inclusive, and because all bedrooms are at that 1-storey level. I'm concerned too that the impact on Fiskin Street was not in any way taken into account. This is an area that's been proposed for the precinct, a heritage precinct, and a whole block just adjacent to the station is impacted along Fiskin Street by the visuals of the of the development. So I think that really needs to be addressed.
Ms Hawkes, I think you've
properly.
broken a record in terms of how many times we've done the 3 minute. Could you
Yeah,
wind it
okay.
up, please?
So the
Thanks.
heritage study really needs to be used as a guide to some of this development very close around the station. So that's all I'll say to the thing. But I personally would want them reduced to 1 story, and a reduced number, and for the units to allow for all mobility access, and for us to not be impacted so much in the Fiskin Street precinct.
Thanks, Ms Hawkes.
Thank you.
Right, councillors, any questions? No, stay there. You might have a question for you.
Not just we've got to keep talking here. I want to ask you a question, Karen.
Oh, yes.
We'll start with Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciated that. And actually, you've answered some of my questions already. But we were, as part of consideration of this, we were given an indication of the proposed heritage overlays in Duncan Street, Atkinson Street, going up to the railway station. And part of your argument was you felt it was out of character with the precinct. Now, we have had discussions about the Victorian State Government's imposing upon us the requirement to have 20,000 new homes in Moorabool. So I'm just I want confirmation from you that you're saying you're not against development in Balan or in that proposed lane, but you are against what you call the high density development and the double story. Is that correct?
We have never been against the development of that, even of that block or units. And I think it's clear we need more housing. And I think that the council's responded really well in terms of the overall provision of 3,000 houses. And I would hope that the council doesn't feel pressured to actually approve these kinds of developments that are really at odds with the whole thrust of the Balan directions and the heritage precinct, the heritage overlay.
Yes.
You mentioned one of your biggest concerns was the loss of privacy and how it's going to change your lifestyle. I think I'm correct in saying you recognise in the plans that the double stories that overlook your block will have a 1.7 or 75 metres privacy screen.
Yeah.
So if you're in your backyard, you won't be able to see into their block. They'll have privacy.
Yeah, that's probably right. But
They'll have clear line of sight into
they will
yours.
have clear views.
Can I have a question for officers, Mr Mayor?
You can.
Mr Mayor, we, and most of the people here were here for 9.1, where we discussed the concerns about the neighbour to the childcare centre about her loss of privacy. And she was talking about the anxiety it caused her. And it's literally her words, I wrote them down at the time, changed the way they live. Why is that a consideration for them, but it's not a consideration here? Is there a different codes?
Mr Lovell, please.
So through the chair, item 9.1 was a non-residential land use in a residential zone. So that's where you have to consider that the residential amenity in residential zones. In this particular application, it is a clause 55 assessment. So they're the controls for medium density housing, and they specify how to not prevent overlooking, but how to limit overlooking to protect neighbouring properties.
Mr Lovell, probably your last question. Is consideration under that res code you mentioned, is it given to the setback of the existing dwellings? Because in this case, and many of the cases there, the houses are set well back. So the new building is going to be looking right on top of it. If they weren't set so far back, it wouldn't be such an issue. Is consideration given to that as part of that code?
So B22, even in close proximity to a boundary, that is the same application of the code. So 1.7 metre high screen, the setbacks don't apply unless it was, of course, built to a boundary.
No worries. Councillor Bingham, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I've sat through almost 5 years worth of objections, and they're all pretty much a key topic of privacy issues. My question to you, and I won't speak for the other because there's other councillors that want to put on other conditions, because just like the Mayor said before the meeting, This is not a refusal or to grant it. It is in VCAT. This is just purely our position to go to VCAT and potentially put on some conditions. Because as Councillor Ward just mentioned, the state government has...
Got a question in there, Councillor Bingham?
I'm getting to the question. So at the last meeting, and you may not have heard, and this is the question I'm going to ask you if you're happy with if my condition resolves some of your issues, but the condition that I want to impose, I note that balcony is not...
Councillor Bingham, get to the question.
So a solid screening of 1.9 on the balconies. That's the condition I want to impose. My question to you is, would that be sufficient for some of your privacy concerns?
Some of them, but I actually think I would need to feel that there were trees and a whole lot screened to feel that I have a private space in my back garden. And that's what I feel. I just feel the invasiveness of that design is going to be overbearing and disrupt my sense. And I'm also concerned about the noise too. That's the other thing which needs to be sort of screened out and accounted for.
Right. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Karen, you did send us all an email and you mentioned about a screening. I don't recall seeing anything about trees, but a height of a fence. Is that something that could help?
Yeah, I did have it here, but I didn't say it. The current fence along the back is 1.5 metres high, and it needs to be replaced with a 1.95 metre high fence, the standard fence. And I also really, given that I'll also have to move quite a bit of things to screen things, I also wanted the developer to be at his expense to pay for some trees to screen out the design.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've got 13 speakers. We've got to get through a couple.
I've got two questions for officers.
Well, as long as we've got quick answers as well.
Okay. Just picking on a couple of issues that Karen said, is the emergency services access adequate to this build?
It's to officers.
Yes.
Well, that could have been asked at any time.
So clause 5206, design standard 1 and 2, actually have specifications of heights of whether it be balcony or any protrusions, and this is a compliant development in accordance with 5206.
Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The last question. Have we heard anything on the heritage overlay? Any updates?
Through Mr Mayor, the advertising period, the consultation period has concluded. A briefing will be brought to council and then a report tentatively the IMC in July. And that would be to bring a report to update council on the outcome of the consultation process and decide on next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Right. Thanks, Ms Hawkes. That's great. And we'll move on to, if I can get Lana Kolinsky, please. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
That's all right.
And I'll keep it under the 3 minutes. I'm mindful of time. So thanks again for the opportunity to present to council on what I think is an inappropriate development proposal. I put my objections to the proposal formally in writing in January, and I've spoken at the April DAC. And in speaking tonight, it's to add to those documents by being very clear that my position is unchanged. The minor amendments made in the Planning Department's most recent recommendation for approval of the permit go no way towards addressing the matters that I raised previously. I'm vehemently opposed to the recommendation to approve the application in its current form. I believe the Planning Department has taken a narrow view that doesn't take into account all considerations. Councillors who have been to our homes in Fiskin Street have seen firsthand the full impact of the proposal on our amenity, and I don't think this can be fully realised on paper. You actually need to see it And in my case, you need to see the impact of the 7.14 metre height and the proximity to my rear boundary, which will have, and what that impact will be on the loss of privacy and the loss of sunlight. Because of where my house is positioned, right at the back of the block, it's positioned at the rear, and there are really no suitable options to address this. Other neighbours who have similarly impacted by the loss of amenity have options to redesign their back gardens at some cost by moving existing shedding and including plantings that will provide screening, as Karen's just mentioned. But nonetheless, that diminishes the usefulness of the existing space because of the loss of sunlight and privacy. I don't know how council defines a neighbourhood. It appears from the recommendation that the narrowest of definitions has been applied, because the impact for and on Fiskin Street and the surrounding area, sorry, I've lost my space, has been completely ignored. As I stated previously, the proposed development will loom large on the western horizon and be very visible from Fiskin Street, especially from the footpath outside numbers 9 and 11, because the two houses are close to the front and you can kind of see right down their driveways to the back. If this proposed development proceeds unchanged, then the council may as well throw out the Balan strategic directions and the Moorabool Heritage Strategy 2024 to 2028, because it makes a mockery of both. It in no way meets requirements for retention of existing neighbourhood or township characteristics, and it disrespects the neighbourhood character of the area. We're all aware that we need affordable housing and that growth is inevitable. I would fully support a development proposal for 86 Atkinson and 83 Edel Streets if the proposal was for single-storey dwellings and a reduced number, hopefully from 10 to 6. This would address the majority of my concerns and those of other objectors. It would meet the stated aims of the council in its various strategy and vision documents, as well as planning regulations and state government priorities for growth. It would increase Balan's housing stock without irreparably damaging the inherent characteristics of this part of the township, this neighbourhood, and it would still make money for the developer. Put simply, it's a win-win all round. Accepting that some development will proceed on the site, I request a number of conditions and reserve the right to request others as the development proceeds. For now, though, the conditions I would seek are that the boundary fence between my property and the development site be replaced with a 1.8 COLORBOND fence at the expense of the developer, and that the developer pay all costs associated with any and all damage to my property caused by the development construction works by repairing or returning the following, which are on my rear boundary, to their pre-development condition, and that's an existing water tank, an existing mature Pittosporum hedge, an existing water feature and compost bins. Thank you for the consideration and the interest, and especially to those who visited to witness the site. And in closing, I ask that the committee, I had written vote, but I'll now say I ask that the committee decide against the proposal in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Minari.
My question is for officers. Who would be liable for damages if something happened during the build or during construction to the neighbouring properties?
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor, I might answer that one. During construction, the building permit has requirements around any damage that may occur, and a builder has to have insurance as part of that would cover it. So the building permit covers those situations.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lana, thank you for your presentation and your email and your presentation at the last meeting. I think I'm correct. I'm looking at the property now. You're number 3 Fiskin Street?
Correct, yeah.
So your house is well set back?
Right at the back of the block.
So your garden's in the front and on the side? Your back garden, you're entertaining
A
it?
little bit down the side behind, behind the garage.
So how far is it from your back door to the back fence, or the back deck area to the fence?
It's about just a touch over 4 metres from the back fence to the outer edge of the deck, and then if I go to the actual back door, it's about 5 or 6 metres, about 6 metres.
Okay, so 4 metres to the deck, 5 metres to the door. And what did you say in front of you? So if this goes ahead there, 4 metres away from your back door, you're going to have a 7.14 metre brick building.
Yep, and that will go along my rear, but I also from my kitchen can see right through to Edel Street, so it'll be the whole row of them.
4 metres. All right. Thank you. So that you said, so that's the back, and on the side is your outdoor entertaining area,
Well, outdoor living area, yeah.
and they're going to have direct line of sight. You won't see into them,
No.
but they'll.
Be able to see right in, yep.
Okay, thank you.
No, any other questions, councillors? No, thanks, Lana, that's great.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, the next speaker is online. It's River Mackenzie. You there, River? Maybe? Ah, there we go.
Hello.
Good evening.
Is this my moment to speak?
It is. It is.
Hello. Okay, thanks for everyone's assistance. River Mackenzie, 1 Fiskin Street in Balan. I'll keep it brief. I'll start with the process and then talk about next steps. So we've had a less than optimal experience with Marlborough Planning Department, where from 22 December 2024, documents relating to the development began to be uploaded over a period of a couple of weeks. The documents, including the design plans, continue to be, in parts, illegible or ambiguous. For example, I continue to be unsure about the exact distance between the back of the built structure and my back fence. I've asked the Planning Department a number of questions in writing over the last few months and have never received an answer of substance other than referring me to this DAC forum. For example, Planning
We
Department...
might just try and turn you up a bit. It's very difficult to hear you. Look. Yes. Excused. We're just going to try and increase the volume, River.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. We're at the MCG. There we go. So the floor's yours. If it was really the ceiling here. So there we go.
Okay, yes, look, sorry, I'll just start the prepared remarks, so I'll just start from the beginning. So we've had a less than optimal experience with the Marlborough Planning Department, where from 22 December 2024, documents relating to the development began to be uploaded over a period of a number of weeks. The documents, including the design plans, continue to be, in parts, illegible or ambiguous. For example, I continue to be unsure about the exact distance between the back of the built structure and my back fence. I've asked Marlborough Planning Department a number of questions in writing over the last few months and have never received an answer of substance other than referring me to this DAC forum. For example, Planning Department have not shared any legal advice that they are apparently relying on. You can waive legal privilege and share anything. And certainly they have never addressed our objections due to the bulk and character argument based on Council's own neighbourhood character policy documents available on the Council's website. The Planning Department have also not told me what would happen if my ornamental pear trees on the development boundary die due to root damage, or how my back fence will be rebuilt. And they certainly didn't mention that the developer didn't want to mediate. I found out just through the grapevine. In fact, the only representation Planning Department made to me in writing was that there were no conditions imposed on the development application. So when various honourable members of this committee refer to conditions on the application, I understand that to mean that the council merely asked that the design not breach some building regs and ordinances. For example, like 2-metre livable balconies and frosted windows where privacy is at risk. In short, on this point, without looking particularly hard, there is an argument for an abusive process. So, on to next steps. There's plenty of legal precedent to support a reduction in bulk, particularly along the 3 Fiskin Street boundary. Passing a motion to support the Fiskin Street community may force this to VCAT or for the developer to negotiate. I don't know whether Lana has spoken, but I support Lana or 3 Fiskin Street's proposal. Finally, as I'm aware, the developer is listening. This is merely about getting a good outcome for the developer, his family, us as neighbours, as well as the broader community. It's certainly not about him. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you, River. Any questions, councillors? No questions? None? No, thanks, River. Right. The next one is a written submission. I assume every councillor has read and seen it, from Shania Bond and Joel Mullane. Right. So that leads us to the important bit. We have a a proposed motion from Councillor Berry. This motion, of course, as we said in the beginning, is purely the State Council's position. There are also some additional conditions that have been added to the original proposed motion, and one is that boundary fencing replaced to a minimum height of 1.9 and to be constructed at the full cost of the developer. And then the next condition is balcony screening to be solid and have a height of 1.8 above the finished floor level.
Sorry.
There.
Yeah.
Tell me, Councillor Berry, is it wrong?
No, that first E, condition E, 1E, 1.95 when I've gone back and looked at the documentation. So if that can be changed to 1.95.
1.95. Yes?
I'll do the same with the balcony, Mr Mayor.
You're at 1.8. We've gone from 1.9 to 1.95. Yep. Right.
Let's keep it all the same.
Is that right? Okay.
Mr Mayor, can I ask your guidance on this, please?
Yes.
I've only been in council 4 years, so I actually haven't been in a position before where we've had to give an opinion without actually voting on something.
Yes.
So do we get to express our views here, or do we...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We still go to a vote. Yeah, we still go to a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. At some point, we'll get there eventually. So, Councillor Berry.
So can I read out the condition, or that
Well,
was
it's
enough
here.
for-
I mean,
so,
yes,
yeah.
you're welcome. The alternative motion is that the Development Assessment Committee have considered all matters as prescribed by the Planning and Environment Act of 1987, notified VCAT its position for the forthcoming appeal is to support the planning application PA 2023160 for the development of 10 dwellings and the removal of vegetation at 86 Atkinson Street and at 83 Edel Street, Balan, in accordance with the proposed permit conditions contained within the report, with the additional conditions that I read out before. So is that where you're at?
Yep.
Magnificent. So you're moving that, Councillor Berry?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
So do you have a seconder? We have Councillor Bingham. Do we have any objections? An objection? Okay, we've got an objection to our position. Right. Okay, Councillor Berry, begin the debate.
No problem. I think that the residents of Fiskin Street deserve some privacy. I think this, and it was spoken to me or messaged to me about just removing the 1.5 height fence to 1.95, which would give them a little bit more privacy. I pretty much would like that condition to occur for the people that back on to that area, and with the double-storey positioning of the buildings affecting their positions in their backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I suppose in line with the first one, I'm not against what Councillor Berry is proposing, and I commend her and try to add these additional protection for the neighbouring residents. I'm just, I'm against this development in its proposed format and with these recommendations, because I just think it is totally out of character with the precinct. We are putting up a proposed heritage overlay has gone up in Duncan Street, Atkinson Street to the railway station, and there was a lot of sympathy and a lot of appreciation for the impact of the amenity impact for the neighbours to the childcare centre. And it doesn't sit well with me that we can't apply those same considerations to the neighbours of this proposed development. To walk out of your back door 4 metres and have a 7.1 metre brick wall in front of you, quite simply, I wouldn't want to live there. I would not want to live there with that. It would destroy the way they currently live, and it would create. The applicant in the first item spoke about the anxiety created. For me, I wouldn't be able to go outside and enjoy my garden like these people currently do, and they have beautiful gardens. So I think that it's out of character with the rural charm of Balan. Someone said earlier it's more appropriate in a high-density development in a new estate, and I agree. So I don't I understand the plan has had to consider Res Code Clause 55, but at this stage, and Councillor Sullivan has quoted before, I think we need to look at the human considerations. And would I want to live there with a 7.1 metre brick wall looking down at me? Absolutely not.
And I'll just ask a question before we go to Councillor Bingham, because that was yours, Lana, was it? That was yours, the 4 metre. I thought you said a 4 metre deck, and then it was 5 metres to the fence? Or was it 4 metres?
4 metres from the fence to the edge of the deck.
And then the deck is how big?
About 1.8, so it's about 6 metres from there to the back.
So it's 6 metres from the back door, just clarifying, to the wall. No worries, thank you. Just clarifying that.
6 metres
to the fence. That's yes. Thank you. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I completely sympathise with every single objector. This is not my first application, potentially, well, it's obviously going to VCAT. If we don't resolve to make a position, this very well may just go through VCAT without any conditions. So in this avenue, at least we can try and meet in the middle ground and try and put on some sort of conditions that may alleviate a lot of your concerns. Everyone won't be happy, but I try and make that. I try and get in that meeting, you know. If we just let this go through to VCAT, as I was saying, I've seen many applications, they just go through. I think these conditions are fair, and some of the objectors have, especially about the fence, and I think in terms of the privacy issue, this is not saying that these conditions may even get through VCAT, we don't know, but I think these conditions are fair. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll just see if anyone's foreshadowing another motion if it doesn't get through, just to cover us off.
I wasn't sure if I could.
Oh, well,
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
well last night, so I think we should.
I'd foreshadow a motion to refuse.
Right, all right, so we've foreshadowed. So we've moved and seconded. With someone spoken, anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan.
Mr Mayor, I would like to speak to the recommendation that's been put forward. This situation, this matter is going to VCAT. Council has to formulate its position. Be very, very clear on that. Council has to formulate its position. If we don't, Council goes down there with no conditions, and then what happens? Now, VCAT will take these into consideration and consideration only. VCAT will make its own mind up what it does. And all the objectors who have put in submissions to Council, they will be formally contacted by VCAT when that time arises, and they can go to VCAT and put their case to VCAT and put their case to the member who sits in on this and put their case. The critical thing is, councillors, we have to make sure that we don't try to push the envelope too far, because there's a fine balance to be had to sort of try and accommodate the concerns that have been genuinely put by the residents, but also making sure that we don't overstep the mark and VCAT sort of say, Council, you're going too far, and pull it right back to an extent where we end up with something less than what we've got here. So I think we have to make sure that we address all these things, but I think critically we have to have a position, and this, what has been put forward here with those small changes, is Council's position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No? Councillor Kerr again, coming in at the...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully understand where Councillor Ward is coming from. I certainly wouldn't want to live next to those flats. But the sad irony of the fact is they comply with the planning ordinance. So to refuse it is just not on. So that's my position, and I can't see any way out of it.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. I'll remind the councillors again that we're just creating a position, we're not making a decision. So any other councillors? Councillor Taylor, please.
Just within all of this, obviously I'm in support of Councillor Ward. This may meet the planning rules in Victoria, but Balan has no double-storey units in that area. I think the desire to have more housing shouldn't impact residents so dramatically. Basically, It's basically the main street in Bland where all these people live. You've got issues with lighting in the afternoon. You've got privacy issues in their backyards. It doesn't fit the traditional units, homes that are currently in Bland. It really going to take a lot away from the character of the area. So I see this as a test case for the whole of Bland, because obviously you basically don't have this kind of development. So obviously it's going to VCAT to start off with, but really it's a shame that the time wasn't used to make peace with the neighbours and use time to get in contact with them. But I'm in support of Councillor Ward.
Right, are any other councillors wish to speak for or against? So Councillor Moore-Berry moved it, Councillor Bingham seconded it. Those in favour with the...
Do I closing?
Oh, sorry, yes.
That's okay.
My apologies, yes.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Whilst I am concerned, extremely concerned with what's happening to the people in Fiskin Street and their backyards, privacy and all those things, I've been there and it's a very sad situation. I am also concerned that if we don't add some sort of conditions on and it's gone to VCAT, that, as what Councillor Sullivan was saying, we will lose all position on conditions. There's a possibility there, so there'd be no conditions. So this is why I've put forward the fencing, and Councillor Jarrett has added the screening to a height that you shouldn't be able to see those neighbours, although it's taking out a lot of your backyard, where sunshine. I still believe that the conditions will help the cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. So we have a position moved by Councillor Berry and seconded by Councillor Bingham. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Okay, did you understand what happened then? No? Yes. Okay. Yes, well, that'll give people a chance to leave if they want. Will someone move to adjourn for 2 minutes? Seconded. Those in favour, so carried. Yeah, and with all that.
We're getting there, but I've got a quick one tonight anyway.
Yeah, right. I've just got to wait for Joe. Councillor Taylor, you have a question?
Possible before everyone speaks to get an update on the Melbourne water situation in that area?
Yeah, we can do that. We can ask a question at the beginning. Yes. Have we got everyone here though? We've just got to wait for Joe. So, if you would, so just have to hold your horses. Here he is. Righto. So we'll just get Joe to resume his seat, and Councillor Taylor has requested a question, and the question is to officers. Is that correct? Righto. Lights on. Righto.
Okay, obviously with the last meeting, we had a notice of motion as well, basically stating that there's two separate issues here. The flooding issue is a Melbourne Water issue, and basically what I was asking is what is the latest update from Melbourne Water, and what's their plan moving forward?
Mr. Bazoon now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the previous DAC meeting, after the deferral, we contacted Melbourne Water the following day. We also sent follow-up correspondence to confirm the outcome of the DAC meeting, and they responded to say they are willing to engage with residents. They engaged the communications team to help them develop an engagement plan and communication plan. We've provided them the submissions. They've also summarised those to identify which aspects relate to Melbourne Water and which is directly related to the development. And they will be putting together a fact sheet. They'll also take into account any other information that was provided by council officers. The next step is they would like to meet with officers to go through the proposed engagement plan, and then they'll set that in motion through a process. And then there will be a session where they will potentially provide for drop-in session for residents, and they're also looking at the mailbox letter drop.
Thank you, Mr. Bazoon. Any other questions with that, Councillor Taylor? Everyone comfortable with that? Good to see you, Mr. Moss. You're back.
G'day.
The floor is yours.
Excuse me. Murray Moss, 5 Walsh Street, Blaine. I spoke at the last meeting on Wednesday the 16th of April about the changes in the water from the industrial estate combined with the new 18-lot development. I now see work has commenced on the corner of Gillespie's Lane and Haddon Drive, the corner block. So another building will be depositing water into the Gosling Street drain. This will make it even worse. The Gosling Street drain needs to be improved before the 18-lot development begins. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Any questions? Councillor Taylor.
So what's the latest response to the development at Gillespie Lane?
So through the chair, that's in reference to earthworks at Gillespie Lane and Haddon Drive. The issue with that is they have commenced earthworks without plan approval. It is in a special building overlay, and they have also lodged a plan application for a warehouse development. So there's two parts. There's going to be an investigation with our enforcement officers, and the second part is we're waiting for that application to come in to refer it off to Melbourne Water.
I'll ask a question just based around that as well. I understand that block has portions of it are in the flood zone that can't be built on or has to be modified. Is that correct?
So through the chair, that property, yes, on the corner of Gillespie Lane and Haddon is subject to flooding from a special building overlay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Right. Any questions of Mr. Moss? No. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Rosa Terry Ozinger, how you going? Sorry about before. Who's going first?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. We're just going to refresh and give you some points to assess with regards to the building of 58 Ingliston Road.
Terry, is that you?
Yeah. The existing problem without the development of 58 Ingliston Road, there is already significant flooding at the rear of 44 Ingliston Road as well as affecting the properties on Lay Court and Lay Street. Proposed development, which includes an easement and retardation tanks on 58 Ingliston Road site, is set to release additional water across the middle of 44 Ingliston Road. This will worsen the existing flooding at the rear of our property and further impact the residents of Lay Court and Lay Street. While retardation tanks can play a valuable role in stormwater management, they are only reliable if they are part of a well thought out, actively managed drainage system. On their own or as part of a poorly planned development, they may be ineffective or even counterproductive, simply shifting the problem rather than solving it. If the development proceeds as currently planned, it will not only exacerbate existing drainage issues for current ratepayers, but also reduce the long-term revenue potential of new developments that could proceed more responsibly with proper designed drainage infrastructure. I'm also increasingly frustrated with the repeated claim that this is a Melbourne water problem. The flooding issues originated long before Melbourne Water assumed responsibility caused not by our current council members, but by decisions made under previous administrations. It's time to stop deflecting the blame and start focusing on practical solutions. For a more effective approach would be to divert stormwater runoff from the industrial estate and the new council depot down Ingliston Road, along with runoff from the railway line. Additionally, floodwater affecting Lay Court and Lay Street residents should be redirected down Lay Street out to the river. These solutions would help correct existing problems and existing properties flooding and sustainable planning for the future.
Thanks, Terry. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Rose and Terry. Terry, we have a written submission here from the applicant, and they talked about some things that you just touched on, so I'd like to ask you a few questions relating to that, if I may. And they identified that the biggest concern from the objectors was regarding the flooding. So their submission was that the proposed subdivision has been designed to ensure the maintenance and free passage and storage of floodwaters through the subject land and avoids downstream impacts as indicated in the subdivision. And then it talks about what's been put in place, the mitigating factors. So flood assessment, impact assessment. The modelling results show that the proposed design can convey the required external design flows through the site, and importantly demonstrates there'll be no adverse site impacts, no adverse off-site impacts, and flood-free access is available to all lots with the inclusion of a culvert structure across the flood path. So that's the first bit. What are your thoughts on what they're saying there?
A culvert structure through my property.
Flood-free access is available to all lots with the inclusion of a culvert structure across the flood path.
So you want to dig a trench through my property at the front and at the back?
My reading of that is they're making that available to those that are interested. Maybe the officers could elaborate, Mr Mayor?
Yes, Mr Lovell.
So through the chair, when they're talking about a culvert with a flood path, that is the internal road. So it's about managing flood water through the subdivision.
Okay. Yep. Terry, the next part they talked about the stormwater management plan, and you touched on this, recommends a treatment involving the use of rainwater tanks and 12 tree pits. And the stormwater management plan has confirmed that the overland flow path in the proposed subdivision will be maintained to existing conditions, which probably wouldn't give you a lot of comfort. What's your thoughts? You don't think the rainwater tanks and 12 tree pits will be sufficient?
I don't think they will, due to the fact that there's a lot more water flood going down this way now with all the runoff from the industrial area as well as the railway line. Never used to be as much water as there is now.
The last comment, Mr Mayor, Melbourne Water's response said the proposed subdivision satisfies the requirements of the land subject to inundation overlay. Therefore, we submit the proposed subdivision demonstrates it will not increase downstream flooding.
They don't know what they're talking about. They're the ones who want to come into the back of my property and dig a deeper trench, which will be actually lower than what the drain is that's on the property already. So why would you come in and dig a deeper hole? That doesn't make sense to me.
No further questions. Thank you, Terry.
Councillors, any other questions? No? No? Thanks, Terry and Rose. Righto. Let's get back to business. Here we go. Mandy Murenhout. How are you?
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. My name is Mandy Murenhout and I own the property at 51 Ingliston Road and my sister is beside me at 63. So the street going into this development is pretty much in between both of our properties. One of my questions relates directly on page 61 and it's about the flooding. This would be achieved by various measures, including notably underground detention tanks, which would form part of the common property to be managed by a future owners corporation, not council. What would that entail?
It's a very good question, and I know we're not supposed to answer questions, but I think that's a question that's going to come up. So if you could, please.
So through the chair, any common property has to be managed by an owners corporation. So that's where all the owners contribute to an owners corporation, and that will include whether it be maintenance, repair, or even reinstatement of any assets within common property.
Okay. Now I've let that question through, but in future we'll get the councillors to ask officers. So if you've got a question, give it a run. Let's work on what you've got there.
I'd like to have clarified now or in the future regarding waste management, where it says council's waste collection services will not be available to the proposed lots. So now, when it's right, what does that entail? What does that mean? Is that rubbish removal? And I go to the neighbourhood character. The proposal generally responds positively to the preferred neighbourhood character. I don't agree with that. I don't understand why there's 18 lots being put forward when it's not in alignment with what's at the other end of the road, the old Melbourne Road, more like the Jasmine Court size lots. Why do we need 18? I don't think that road has the infrastructure to manage that. And it's quite often like a drag street on a Saturday night, and none of that's been considered. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Good on you. Thank you. Any questions, councillors?
Mr Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mandy. I won't repeat the questions I asked of Terry, but I was going to, but in the interest of time I won't. So if you feel you want to comment on those. But I suppose overall the officers felt, based on the response from Melbourne Water and the plans put forward, that the flood-prone nature of the site and surrounding land was addressed in the proposed stormwater design and it would not contribute to flooding of other properties. So I suppose I'm giving you the opportunity to tell us why you think that's not the case, and feel free to comment on the questions I asked Terry as well.
I think in the prior meeting in April, it was quite a robust conversation around flooding, and we weren't given assurances from the existing flooding that is taking place along the old Melbourne end of the road. And so we have no confidence in what you're saying to us regarding this subdivision.
Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Ms Mayor. Question for officers. Just in regards to the Section 173 agreement in relation to the private waste collection to be enforced, could you just explain how that will be carried out by the private entity?
So through the chair, it means that any bin collection from any of those lots within this subdivision cannot be collected by council. So they would have to engage through the body corporate a private contractor. So the private contractor would be the one taking their waste away, and they'd be paying fees for that contractor.
Thank you.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a question for the officers as well.
on exactly the same thing we just heard about on section 173, the private road, I've just found out recently that a private road is a private road because council didn't approve it or something. Is that correct? Could be because of emergency services or something like that?
So, through the chair, when you say, so all roadways are what called public highways. So, in other words, they've got public access. Anywhere where you've got a driveway, and you could have a driveway to units, that is within common property. In this situation, you've actually got a constructed road, but it is managed privately. So it is managed by a body corporate. They own it, they repair it, they maintain it.
So, sorry, one more question. Did council approve that road, or we don't need to? Is it because I've heard of a relevant one in Bacchus Marsh? That's all. And I was just interested in why it is now a private road and not just an ordinary road.
Mr Lovell.
So through the chair, the reason why this became a common property and therefore a private road is due to the stormwater. Council was not going to take on stormwater retention, stormwater tanks and maintenance for those assets.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Bingham, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a quick one. It's not very clear, but how wide is this road, noting that emergency services need 3 metres access?
Mr Lovell?
So the roadway does meet, I think it's 14 metres. It does meet the IDM for a roadway, so it's actually wide enough for a vehicle to access and manoeuvre around the roundabout. Oh, sorry, the court bowl, I should say. It's actually exit in the forward direction.
Just subsequent, Mr Mayor, but so if there was a vehicle parked on the side of the road, there wouldn't be adequate access, is that correct?
No, there would be adequate access due to the width of the road.
Councillors, any other questions? Thank you, you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you. We both registered to speak, so did you have something
Oh,
else you wanted to
righto.
say?
So
Yeah, okay.
that's just brought up a couple of questions for me with regards to the body corporate.
You'll have to put the question through the councillors. That's
Sorry.
Yeah.
Does Mirrabul Shire in Balan have any other body corporate areas like this that's going up where the council itself is not prepared to take on the development and they've shunted it and made it private?
I'm not sure that's the case, but
Well,
you
it's
could
pretty
put that
much the
two,
case.
You can put that 20 other ways, and
Well, I
you'll get
could
on
make it
much more
nicer.
famously with me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's almost like a retirement village in a private area.
But continue anyway, and maybe one of the councillors will ask that question.
All right, so there was a few other questions that I had here. The Balan Future Investigation Area along Gillespie Lane. So that's Gillespie Lane and Carrots Lane. Has that been marked for development?
I'll get one of the councillors to ask that question when it comes up, yes. If they're prepared to, yes.
Okay. Is Ingliston Road part of the primary shared path network, hike and bike?
You do understand this process, don't you?
Point of order.
But what I'm asking
Point of order,
is,
Mr Mayor.
these questions directly
These are
relate
questions,
to...
but this isn't the forum for that.
These questions directly relate to the amount of traffic that goes on Ingliston Road.
I understand that, but this isn't the forum for that. This is where the councillors will ask the questions on your behalf. So the forum is to talk to the councillors, say, these are my issues.
Well,
And
these
they'll
are
bring
my
it-
issues.
Yeah,
I'm
please-
asking the
please-
questions. Can you...
How about we come to this arrangement? I'll do the talking, then you do the talking, and that way you'll hear me and I'll hear you. It'll be great. Works really well. This is what we're going to do. You have some questions here. If you want to write them down and give them to the council, I'm quite prepared for the councillors to ask the questions. But in this forum, you're here to make a statement.
Okay.
So, thank you.
My statement is that I believe that all of this future infrastructure that we're putting in place is going to generate way too much traffic along Ingliston Road with the new boundaries that we're putting on Gillespie and Carrots Lane, more traffic. We want a bike and hike. People, bikes, industrial vehicles, cars don't mix. It is a small country town, and I think it would be lovely if we kept it that way.
I live here. I feel the same.
one more statement.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Given that the developer does take insurance for any potential damages, what will the developer provide me if, when they're developing this private property, damage to my livestock?
I'll ask a question for you. How's that covered under the Insurance Act?
It's 15 metres from the road to my property fence.
We'll get this sorted first. So you're concerned about the livestock when they do the development, is that right?
Well, yeah, the noise, the traffic, the rubbish, the
Yeah, I'm not sure. What sort of livestock do you have that is worried by rubbish? I don't know. Anyhow, Councillor Bazudna. Oh, yeah, that's what he's next to me. I thought I'll give him a job. So, Mr. Bazudna, sorry, sir. You can do worse.
Mr. Mayor, this land is earmarked for future development. It allows for lot size up to 800 square metres, so it's earmarked for development. I can't answer that question from a planning point of view. It's something I can take on notice, but it's definitely not a planning consideration.
I think you'll find the insurance will cover any damages that are done. Yes, it would become a civil matter, not a council matter, but yes. Yes, so please, anything else?
Mayor, can I just add one thing, please?
No, Rose.
This is not Q&A.
Yeah, it's not Q&A. But honestly, the whole process is you bring it in, you give a discussion, you put your objection forward.
No,
if you've spoken to the councillors, they can ask the questions.
It's just really saddened that such a beautiful place is...
No, Rose, sorry. Now, please, where were we?
Just really saddened that such a beautiful place as Balan is now going to be a residential, high-traffic area that, you know, families are not going to enjoy like my children did, because we've got townhouses and we've got units and we've, you know, it's not Balan anymore.
I agree. Unfortunately, the planning scheme, the state planning scheme,
I know, I
dictates
saw
these
them,
things.
and,
Yes.
and I can see that, you know, Bacchus Marsh is earmarked for the majority of the planning, and Balan is going to have some. But can we not just keep it in scope with what we've got?
Yes. No, I understand. No one understands, but I've lived here 35 years. I
It's a
understand.
beautiful place.
Yeah, I agree. But unfortunately, we have to work within the planning scheme, and that's our role.
But,
So.
well, how do we stop the plans from changing and moving to progressively so bad?
Talk to the planning minister.
Who's that?
Oh, I think they only just changed it, didn't they? I have no idea. Yeah, there we go. We'll look it up here.
Mr. Mayor.
We'll change the number anyway. Look, anyway, we've got to move on.
Thank you.
But thank you anyway. Thank you. Right. No, Rose, we're going to talk later. If you've got a question, put it back through later.
Sorry.
I promise I'll ask it. It's not a question. Well, what do you want to...
Mr Mayor, if I may, point of order, Mr Mayor.
Sorry.
Point of
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
No, I'm trying to say sorry. It's not going to happen. Thank you. Right, Councillor Berry, yes. How can
Mr Mayor, it's Sonia Kilkenny.
Oh, right.
Yeah, thank you.
We could have done that after. Councillor Ward, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The last presenters spoke about traffic concerns. I note that the proposed subdevelopment's 18 lots ranging from 800 square metres to 2198 square metres, so it's not high density, it's medium to low density, average lot size is 960. And I suppose my question is to officers. The officers have made a comment here about the design of the internal road is sufficient to accommodate the expected traffic volume, and the cul-de-sac providing sufficient turning space to service vehicles and fire trucks. It would seem to me with 18 lots of that size, it's going to be very, very low volume traffic, Mr Lovell. Obviously, there's no concerns that have been raised about the traffic.
Until now. And I think we're making a statement there rather than a question, but it's sort of the bad one. Right. I suppose you wouldn't answer too. Sorry. Thanks, Mr Lovell.
Okay, through the chair, so it's about traffic impacts. They are minimal, so the applicant did provide a traffic impact assessment, which did advise that, of course, the traffic volumes generated by the subdivision are well within the Australian standard.
subsequent?
Yes.
Mr Lovell, if I may, one more. The speaker's asked a question, which I'm now asking. Is there another development of this nature with a private road in Mirrabul Shire? Is that possibly one off Clifton Drive?
So through the chair, you are correct. So 101 Gisborne Road was a private, or they had a series of private internal roads, so accommodating, I think it was about 80 lots in total.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors, before we move on? There's a recommendation in the papers. Sorry? It's a written submission. Oh, they're here. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, that was here. Sorry. Yeah, they both come up at once. So, yes, sorry. Righto. So we've had a written submission. Everyone's read it, I assume. Right. So there's a recommendation in the papers. Do I have somebody who wants to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Do I have a seconder, please? No? I'll give you one more chance if we don't have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Minari. Do we have any dissent? Councillor Bingham. So I'd ask Councillor Sullivan, please, to direct the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's fair to say that the land is changing and will continue to change. There's no doubt about that. I mean, even in the time that I've been involved in council, I've seen changes, and as you've duly noted, you've been here for 35 years and you've seen a lot of change over that period. I guess, and the flooding issue that has been raised by several of the objectors and others is a real issue in that area. But basically, with the assessment that needs to be done on subdivisions like this, is does this development or intensify or create more flood water than what's already there? So the engineers do an assessment, and there's a model they use, and it's basically to see what is the uplift in runoff caused by this development at the pre-development level. If there was flooding beforehand, that would be there regardless of the development. So they duly do assessment, and I think that's what Melbourne Water are responding to. They're saying what the proposed measures to mitigate and the stormwater tanks that they propose to place in the road will address the additional water. It's not to retain all the water on site, it's to ensure there's no intensification in the flow off of water. This is what these measures are done. And I think we have to understand that. Now, all right, council might refuse this, the applicant goes to VCAT. What do you think then? What will we think then? So we have to have regard to try and our officers have done that, try to address as much as they possibly can to mitigate some of these issues. You have referral authorities like Melbourne Water and that who make the decision on these areas, as there are other referral authorities like Powercor and Central Highlands Water, etc. So they are charged with looking at these particular matters that come before us in those areas. And I think the motion put forward by Councillor Vendetti-Taylor some time ago to actually have Melbourne Water engage in this, because there is a wider issue here. No one is disputing there is a wider issue here which has to be addressed. But don't conflate this development with the wider issue. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The reason why I'm objecting is pretty simple, just in relation to the flood issues. Now, I'm not against development. This is potentially a good site to develop in the future if we resolve those flood issues. I don't object to a private road, because there are a few roads that in the Shire that are private and they're dealt with through the 173 agreements. But time and time again, it's raised the flooding issue. Councillor Vendetti-Taylor has obviously moved the motion some time ago to attempt to rectify that issue with Melbourne Water. So the reason why I'm objecting is, well, let's give them more time to rectify the issue. I can't approve the application as it is. I'll say it again, until those flooding issues are resolved.
Thank you, Councillor Bingham. Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am conscious that we've obviously gone over time in terms of our 60 days, I'm assuming, yes? Yep. And very mindful that we must make some sort of decision on this. We can't just keep deferring it or delaying the process. I do note that there was 7 referral authorities consulted, which obviously means a lot, and lots of water boards there as well. So I am very conscious that there is, flooding issues in that area. We are consistently working on that issue and have been for many years, and I know that this council is very determined to get to the bottom of it. A lot of us have visited many times and keep pushing and keep pushing. And I know we're always hounding Henry for answers and more on that topic. It's challenging when we are faced with a planning scheme that ticks the boxes in this space. And I see pages and pages of conditions here that represent that it has ticked the boxes. And so, we have a position where we have a planning scheme, it's a rule book that we must follow to some extent. So I don't want to see this end up in VCAT where we have no conditions, because this is a big one. So I'm more comfortable to put something down in writing and keep working on it and have those conditions set if it does end up in VCAT. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Councillor Taylor, is it your lot on to speak?
Yeah, obviously I'll, in support of Jared. Just within the site and obviously moving forward, Melbourne Water, obviously, this is a Melbourne Water issue. What's happened in the past is obviously in the past, and to Henry and his team, just to let everyone know they've done a ton of work on this, and they should be commended. So everyone is actually trying to move forward and get the best results here. So within that, hopefully you take that away, that there has been a lot of work done from here. With this development and the way that I see it, there's too many issues with flooding that haven't been answered as of yet. 18 units in a large block area. Basically, sometimes people, they come to live on a big block in a big area, and this is, once again, as with the last issue, it's basically maximum impact. We talk about changing Balan. Basically, this is just pretty similar to what the last case is. You're basically putting 18 units into an area, and like I say, with the flooding and with all the issues around it, I can understand all the work that Henry and his team have done in regards to getting everything together. But hand on heart, I can't support this as it stands at the moment until the issues are resolved.
Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support Councillor Sullivan's view. I thought he summed it up extremely well in a very complicated report. He summed it up extremely well in layman's language. We shouldn't get confused. There is 2 separate issues. We should not get confused with the or put them together with the main drainage issue. And when I read the report of our officers, it's an extremely well-written report, and I can see no reason why I would object to anything that our planning officers have written here. So I thank them for such a extremely well-written report.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Right, anyone else? Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just thought, keep us out a bit later. I'm conscious of the fact that Jacinta Allen made it very clear in February, and she said, amongst other things, Victoria's going to grow by this amount of people, and Moorabool, you will take 20,000 houses if you don't. We're going to strip you of your planning powers and we'll take over. We'll take over planning. So our job is, as I see it, is to get the best outcome possible for Moorabool, whilst acknowledging we must grow, because otherwise, our planning powers will get stripped. But I do have a question. So I see the need to, obviously support growth, but protect the best interest of our ratepayers as much as possible. But if we were to approve this, this is a question for Henry and Mark, if we were to approve this, what powers do we have to hold Melbourne Water accountable if they don't do what they say they were going to do? And Councillor Vendetti-Taylor pointed out he wasn't quite satisfied, because there's part of me that's not satisfied as well. What powers have we got to go back to Melbourne Water and said, you assured us this would happen, and we've supported this development, and now there's issues?
It's level.
So through the Chair, if you do look at your papers, quite a number of Melbourne Water conditions, so not only conditions about the construction of those requirements, but also ongoing legal requirements that it must comply. So in the event of any failure or non-maintenance, then enforcement action is undertaken against those owners.
Okay, anyone wish to speak for or against councillors, please? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm actually inclined to speak on behalf of the motion going through. I am conscious of the ongoing conversations that have occurred around the Leigh Court Walsh Street issues. I have a real concern for those issues. I see solace in the process that Melbourne Water will continue to liaise with residents, as there was a motion put by Councillor Vendetti-Taylor, and that hopefully as councillors and council officers, that this will be followed through to make sure the process and the issues that are occurring in that area continue to be spoken to Melbourne Water, and these issues get fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No. Councillor Sullivan, please close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I share the anguish of my fellow councillors. I think no one is saying there is not a flooding issue in this area and the broader area around there, and I think the people who have spoke here tonight have sort of clearly demonstrated that. And so this flooding issue is not in dispute. We have a situation that this site is earmarked for development under the land structure plan process. And the proponent is exercising their right and lodged an application in line with that. So I'll just put that in context. The question, I suppose, is does this development or increase the amount of flooding in that area? Now, Melbourne Water have put a lot of conditions there, and the applicant has responded with an engineering or assessment of that. And might I say, the science says it does comply. So we have to have some regard for that. I mean, if we just sort of disregard the processes, which are the standard process the council would apply in any subdivision, like drainage and so on, so they're the thing. And I think we can't keep kicking the can down the road and saying, oh, we'll put this off, because really what does that say to anyone else who might be looking at doing development within this shire? Does it really say, well, you put it in, you go through all the expense and council will not give it due consideration? And I think we also need to be aware that I don't think this development should be a victim in a standoff with Melbourne Water. I mean, it's an issue, it's a real issue, and it's something that people are living with, but we're looking at this particular subdivision. That's what we've got to look at. And I do note there's not 18 units that has been cited. These are 18 larger residential type blocks in today's world, between 800 square metres and 2,190, averaging nearly 960 square metres. And in the residential world at the moment, they are big blocks, I can assure you, because there's a lot smaller. So I think it's not an easy thing for council to do, and it's probably causing a lot of anguish with my fellow councillors, but I think, Mr Mayor, we have to go forward. We have to make a stand here, because I think Councillor Minari pointed out the fact that it might end up at VCAT. Well, you know, we just need to be proactive and positive, and the science we have to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Right, councillors, let's take it to a vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Right. Do you guys want to leave or? Yeah. All right, we'll go to item 10. Updates, updates, trends and other matters. Yeah, still going. Righto. Updates, trends and other matters. Please. Let's keep them small.
No updates, Mr. Mayor.
Righto. Okay. And VCAT?
Just a very quick update.
Through the chair, be quick. 811 Green Hills Road in Blackwood, which was a notice of decision to grant a permit issued during an ACT meeting. It was appealed by an objector, and VCAT has agreed with council's decision, and a permit has been granted and plans have been endorsed.
Well, okay. Let's go. Councillor Sutherland, question?
If I may, Mr.
We've still got a bit to go again.
Sorry, just on the VCAT decision, I understand that the appeal has been lodged with regards to Wiggins Road, the earthworks, is that correct?
So through the chair, yes, that is correct. 88 Wiggins Road, which was the motorcycle track retrospective works, they have lodged a VCAT permit.
There you go. That'll fail. Righto, we're going to go to urgent business. Councillor Sullivan.
I dare it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Keogh.
I've got no more to say.
There was nothing urgent about you tonight, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Taylor.
No urgent business, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Minari.
No urgent business, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a fair few to get through. No. But I do have some business. It's not urgent, it's other business. But I just wanted an update on, again, I'll ask two and then you can just answer both at the same time. But first off, I'll get an update on 32 Grant Street. But secondly, in relation to the roundabout on the intersection of Griffith Street and McCormick's Road, there was scheduled to have pedestrian crossing installed. I just want to get an update of when we can expect that to happen.
Is that a planning matter?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, well, if it wasn't, you'll turn it into one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with 32 Grant Street, we've issued one notice which they've complied with for graffiti. And then we've written to them requesting a formal meeting, and we're still waiting a reply from them to meet with them to work on outcomes for the site. In relation to McCormick Street, so there was a notice of motion by council, and community assets and infrastructure are actioning those outcomes of those notice of motion. I can get an update from Mr. Phil Jeffrey and then send it around separately.
Okay, Councillor Berry, any other business?
Well, no other business, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman.
No business, thank you.
Councillor Ward.
I think it'd be remiss of us to close without welcoming Ali to her first DAC, and before she started coming to DACs, that last 15 minutes.
Don't worry, she won't be coming back after this.
And welcome aboard, Rob.
Yeah.